My name is Ufamade. I am the coordinator of the NYIGF, and I am the global leader of digital grassroots. And on behalf of the entire coordinating team of the NYIGF, all of them present here today, we would like to say a big thank you to everyone who has taken out time to join us today. It's a pleasure to host this amazing community of Nigerian young people who are going to gather to discuss the issues and challenges that surround the use of the internet in Nigeria and provide solutions to areas where issues arises. So today, before I go on, I would like to say that this meeting is being recorded and the recording will be made publicly available to everyone after the meeting on the NIGF YouTube channel. So what to expect from today? This is our first virtual event and is the gathering of the Nigerian Youth Internet Governance Forum. So today we're here to learn about the core principles of internet governance, what that means and how it affects us. We have seen how internet technology and ICT as a whole has displayed utmost importance in day-to-day lives this year due to the global pandemic. So yes, this our gathering more than ever has proved necessary. And this is our annual event. We had our pre-event last week on the 16th. The link to that is available on our website. So please, thank you to everyone that joined. Special appreciation. You can always go back to watch that. And then also we're here to connect and network with our community members. We find out that it's opportunities like this where we gather that makes it that makes all of us accessible to ourselves to share ideas and network as needed. So please let's try and make use of that opportunity and also to engage and contribute on our ideas and principles and recommendations. So before we go ahead, yes, we know that this is our first virtual event, but would like to still carry on our community participation guidelines from of face-to-face meetings of inclusion, professionalism, non-violence, and respect. And then on our agenda, today, this is going to be 30 minutes event in total. We're going to have brief health breaks in between. The link to the agenda has been shared with all of you. I think someone can put that, Gabriel, if you could just put that in the chat for everyone, that would be great. So the link to the agenda has been shared. Today, we're going to have 4 goodwill messages from amazing stakeholders from the global internet community. And then we're going to have a high-level panel discussion that would feature experts as well that on the events team, shaping a resilient in internet. And then we're going to have 4 breakout discussion groups with experts, moderators, 8 speakers, and 4 rapporteurs as well. So basically, I think we're still pretty much figuring out the whole online event thing, but we hope that we have done a lot of communication to guide your participation. At the end of the breakout sessions, we're all going to reconverge back into this room to have a recap of the individual discussions. So it's important to know that the Zoom platform, to use the Zoom platform, let's just all use the chat function. If you have questions throughout today, we're highly encouraged to ask questions and engage and share our thoughts. And most importantly, try to identify areas where you lack understanding and engage as speakers. So we're going to use the chat a lot for that. If you require any support, just raise your hand. I think you can do that on the chat. And then if you log out of this meeting to rejoin, just use the link again. Social media channels are available. We want to engage with you there, so please connect with us there as well. And before we go on, before I introduce, we move on to take goodwill messages from our esteemed internet governance experts here. I'll just like to say a special thank you to everyone who has made this gathering possible, especially the NYIGF MAG, our expert moderators and speakers, our participants, and basically all of our contributors. This wouldn't have been successful without you. So basically, our participants ensure that you listen, recommend, and identify clear messages that we want to give to our stakeholders. Today, we are going to access and discuss the internet in Nigeria. And there's literally no format to this. It's just us thinking about what our realities are and what the future is and trying to map out a roadmap for that using what experiences that we face day to day. So we're going to have goodwill messages from our speakers lined up here right now. And I think there's an additional image that is not coming up here. I think that's a technical issue on my part. I'm sorry about that. So I'm going to let our speakers introduce themselves. I'm going to call on them one by one, and then they have a few minutes, about 2 minutes, to please just welcome all of us to this event and get this started. Thank you all very much for joining once again, and I am Usamodi. So the first person here is Dr. Haru Al-Hassan.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Dr. Haru Al-Hassan, Director of New Media and Information Security, Nigerian Communication Commission. Thanks all for meeting once again in the Nigerian Internet Governance Forum 2020. It's my pleasure. It is my pleasure to welcome you all to the 2020 Nigerian Youth Internet Governance Forum. It is an honor
Sam, you're muted, please. Can you mute your microphone? Hello, doctor. Hello, Dr. Sam. Can you mute your microphone? Please, can other people hear me? Bryce, can you hear me, please?
The sound is not clear. Caleb, I was saying that the sound is not clear. I don't know if
okay, the sound is not clear. Please give me 1 minute. It will take over my PC from here and speak if you can hear my sound clearly. I want to activate video for him.
Do I start from the beginning?
Yes.
I start from the beginning.
Yes.
It's my pleasure to welcome you all to the 2020 Nigerian Youth Internet Governance Forum. It is an honor and pleasure for me to give this goodwill message. I would like to thank everyone for participating, especially during this period of COVID-19. The theme of this year's forum is Shaping a Resilient Internet for Social Sustainability. It is timely and important because major activities are delivered using the internet today. An example of which is this forum. COVID-19 has revealed that indeed the internet plays a critical role in our life and economy. For this reason, a sustainable society must be built on strong internet structures. Also, it is the responsibility of every stakeholder in the internet space to play their role in achieving the goals of this year's theme. From the government to private institutions, the civil society groups, the technical community and academia. Not to forget, the young Nigerians have a major role to play in this process. Access to the internet is life-changing during and after times of crisis. Therefore, there must be a continuous multi-stakeholder handshake. Government should commit to providing all necessary support to facilitate access to the broadband internet for its citizens. Private companies must take continuous positive and productive actions to ensure more Nigerians are connected. Civil society organizations should always remember the important role they play in achieving common goals. The technical community must continue to play a leading role in the development and promotion of the internet, sharing resources and encouraging open access. Also, academia must not relent in educating the populace on the need and importance of the resilient internet. The youth, on the other hand, must be ambassadors from today, preaching the good message of access, affordability, capacity building, cybersecurity, zero tolerance to cybercrime, and other engagements that will ensure we achieve a sustainable society using the internet. I sincerely hope that this year's forum will deliberate and discuss all facets of a resilient internet for societal sustainability and come up with useful recommendations. Thank you all. I wish us fruitful deliberations.
Thank you very much, Dr. Haru. Thank you very much for sharing with us. I would like to invite our next speaker from the IGF NIR's, Ms. Anya Genko.
Thank you very much, Ufa, and good afternoon from Geneva to all the distinguished delegates, colleagues, dear friends of the Nigerian IGF and Nigerian Youth IGF. For me, it's a great pleasure to be able to join you today on this very important day. I, at the beginning, would like to congratulate, first of all, from the IGF Secretariat to all of you on hosting another successful Nigerian National IGF and especially the Nigerian Youth IGF process at today's annual meeting. It is, as I said, an honor to be able to speak to you today on this important day, and I'm very much looking forward to learning about the internet governance ecosystem in the country and the perspectives you have to share with all of us, as well as to communicate it to my colleagues in other countries and regions running equally successful processes as you do. A few weeks ago, I was again in your region virtually for the occasion of the West African Youth IGF as well as for the Ghana Youth IGF. And I have to say that for me, it's impressive to see how that particular part of the African continent is developing digital policy processes at such a rapid pace through organized stakeholder engagement, primarily, I have to say, and underline youth engagement, that youth enthusiasm and incredible amounts of energy that many young people invest in advancing the digital policy discourse. You are the ones that are giving us a positive indications for a bright future that is in front of us. And I want to thank you to all of you for that. You represent the change we all need, and the momentum we are living in is just giving a strong confirmation that what you do is an investment in better future for all. I, of course, refer to this global health threat that has shaken all aspects of our lives. And it is at no surprise that your community has chosen to address the digital economy development in the post-COVID-19 era as the main theme. And as the pandemic has shown to us, the power, but also the necessity for going digital. Thanks to the internet, you will agree, I'm sure, many managed to continue to go to schools, to work, to speak to their loved ones, and what has been critical for our safe existence, to be informed. But many are not as fortunate as us, as you know. Close to the half of our population still lives in an offline world, and we must invest all our efforts to draw the attention of those that can make decisions and implement our visions to the unconnected and underconnected ones. Beyond that, we also must focus our energies on equal treatment of all in internet governance ecosystem. Marginalized and vulnerable groups exist in all parts of the world. Women, girls, refugees, indigenous people, young and elderly population, people with disabilities, people living in remote and rural areas, just to name the few. But everyone must have equal conditions, equal treatment in regard to meaningful access to the internet. Inclusion, as you know, is at the heart of the IGF processes, be it at a global level through the UN's framework of the Internet Governance Forum, or at the local levels implemented through the 131 national, regional, and youth IGFs. The IGF 2020 annual meeting will also focus on the inclusion, as that is one of its 4 main thematic tracks, along with trust, data, and environment. As you know, the 15th annual IGF meeting, for which we are intensively preparing, is hosted online by the United Nations due to the COVID-19 pandemic. The meeting will be hosted across 2 phases. The first phase would take place from 2nd to 6th of November, while the official opening of the meeting will be in the week after, on 9th of November, and all the way until 17th of November, we'll have a number of exciting sessions when the meeting will be officially closed. The meeting's program develops around the main theme, Internet for Human Resilience and Solidarity, and under the overall motto, Virtually Together. In addition to over 200 sessions that will be hosted throughout the 12 days of the IGF, there will be a dedicated track for the high-level leaders that is focusing on internet governance in the age of uncertainty and discussing implications with health, security, economy, environment, and social development. Also, this year's IGF will continue with now the tradition from last year of gathering parliamentarians that are expected to meet during a dedicated roundtable on 10th of November to exchange ideas and bring specific inputs to the topic related to the trust during and post-COVID-19 time. We sincerely hope at the Secretariat that many of you will be joining us for the 15th annual IGF meeting in November, and beyond that, that you would take active participation for bringing particular concrete inputs from Nigeria to the IGF. Young people are particularly encouraged to engage with the IGF 2020, especially because this year there are special efforts invested in organizing several youth-focused sessions and networking opportunities to elevate youth's priorities in the global internet governance ecosystem and to create opportunities for all of us to learn from fresh, innovative ideas. The IGF also welcomes you to contribute to its intersessional work through the 4 best practice forums ongoing this year, focused on cybersecurity, gender and access, local content and data and new technologies. The 21 dynamic coalitions focusing on different topics will also be taking active participation, organized participation at the IGF 2020. And of course, we are most pleased that you are always active in the collective work of the 131 national, regional, and youth IGFs, or as we call them shortly, the NRIs, through the NRI's main session and 7 collaborative sessions that will be hosted during the IGF 2020. There's a lot to be done in preparing for the 15th annual IGF meeting that is coming and approaching us very quickly, but also in preparing for the future. As you know, the IGF 2021 will be hosted by the government of Poland. The following ones will be hosted by the Ethiopian government, and we are very excited to come back to the African continent. And in 2023, we are moving to the Asian continent, when the IGF will be hosted by the government of Japan. We hope that you will be on board with us in all these 3 important IGF cycles, because the good results can only be made by all of us working together. Once again, thank you very much for this opportunity to address you on behalf of the IGF Secretariat. We all wish you a very successful national IGF, very successful youth IGF, and we are looking forward to the important outcomes and outputs of this important meeting. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Anya, for that awesome goodwill message. I'm sure our entire community looks forward to joining the Global IGF in subsequent years. Thank you very much. So I'm going to call on our next pet speaker for the goodwill messages, Mr. Bryce Abba from Afrinic. Mr. Bryce, please unmute your microphone. Thank you.
Okay, good morning, everyone. Can you hear me? Ufa? Okay, all right. So yes, my name is Bryce Abba from Afrinic, and I'm the Community Development Manager. Distinguished participants, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. As Afrinic Community Development Manager and representative of Afrinic at this important event, I would like to thank the organized committee of the Nigeria Youth IGF for inviting my colleague Joel Abiade and myself at this Nigeria Youth Internet Governance 2020, dealing with the term shaping a resilient internet for societal sustainability. By taking part of this Nigeria Youth IGF 2020, Afrinic here marks its deep support and its firm commitment to collaborate with the national and regional initiative to promote internet development and governance in Nigeria and in Africa. In the line with their core IGF principle, openness and inclusion to all internet stakeholders group, Afrinic has embarked on series of activities with the aim of to strengthen African skill in internet governance. Developing the skill and experiences of African actors in internet governance is crucial to make an active part in a global discussion on this major topic. Before ending, I would like to recall that Afrinic is the Internet Registry for Africa, accepted in 2005. And the HQ is Mauritius. By serving more than 1,800 public, private, economic, academic sectors, Afrinic has contributed in the development of their African internet by ensuring the distribution of internet number resources and building capacity of African engineers, decision makers, and civil society groups. With its long experience in the field of internet development, Afrinic remains a reliable partner that the global IGF and national and regional initiative could count on. Wishing all a successful Nigeria Youth IGF 2020. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much, Mr. Bryce. And of course, we are all agreed that the history or the story of Internet and ICT in Nigeria cannot be complete without Afrinic. So thank you very much for gracing us at this event. Our next goodwill message is supposed to be from, or is going to be from Mrs. Mary Uduma, who would not be joining us here in person today, but she has sent a recorded message of her goodwill message. She's currently hosting the Women IGF, which is holding simultaneously right now. So she sends her messages as a recording. So can we have that displayed, please? Thank you very much. And Caleb, we can't quite hear.
Okay. 1 minute, please.
IGF to this great occasion of your 2020 Future Internet Governance Forum. It's a great pleasure for me to be here, and I'm honored to be here. And I can see you have lined up great topics, building capacity, participation in the global economy, as well as business side of the internet. And I know some of you are business people. I know, and I am sure you're going to come up with actionable recommendations, messages, and programs, not only for the youth, but for adults as well, like me. And I also believe that at the end of your program and the conclusions you come out with will feed into the West Africa, the Africa, and the Global Youth IGF. I know you participate, and you participate effectively. Thank you. Thank you for this opportunity. It wouldn't have come at any other time for you to have thought about shaping the internet for sustainability. It is great topic you have chosen, and you have lined up great speakers. I know you will thoroughly discuss this topic and subtopics and come to conclusions that will not only bring prosperity to our country, Nigeria, but change the narratives from negative to positive, to prosperity, to wealth, to digital wealth for our country. Thank you, the youth. And I know you are going to do a great job. And I want to thank the organizers, the NYIGF MAG, as well as the Youth MAG. You have worked tirelessly to make sure this happens. Thank you. Today and tomorrow, you'll be speaking, you'll be talking, you'll be discussing, you'll be debating, and I know you'll come up with something that will be of use and value to our society. And I also want to remind you that you know there is the Global Youth IGF, and I want you to be part of it. Don't miss it. Let your voices be heard and participate effectively. I know you know it. You can do it. You can make it happen. So I want to see and I want to hear your voices. And at the end of your program, I'm expecting to receive your recommendations that would also be documented at the West African level. And remember, your conclusions will feed into the communique that will come up or come out from the 2 days program. I'm wishing you great outing. Thank you very much for having me. Thank you.
Thank you very much for joining us, Mrs. Uduma. It's always a pleasure to have you, even virtually. Okay, so thank you very much to all of our goodwills and to all of our speakers for the goodwill messages. We appreciate all of you and your time, and thank you very much once again for joining us. Moving on to the next agenda item, we're going to take a high-level panel discussion right now, which will be hosted by Morishola Alaba. So in a few minutes, I'm going to hand over to Morishola. And before we go into that, I would like to remind all of our participants once more that please, during the presentation from our esteemed panelists, kindly endeavor to engage them and connect with them and ask them questions as you see fit, and explore areas that you like to engage their expertise on. All right. So Morishola.
Good morning, everyone. I don't know if you can see me or hear me. Good morning. Can you hear me, please?
Yes, we can.
Okay. I welcome everybody to this panel section. I also welcome the panelists. You're very welcome. I have on this panel Chinache, Seun Fakorede, Seun Ojedeji, and Ridwan Oloyede, and I welcome you all. Going forward, before we continue, I would like my panelists to quickly introduce themselves. I'll start with you, Chinache.
Hi, thank you so much for inviting me to this exciting event. My name is Chennai, and I am the Gender and Digital Rights Research Manager at Web Foundation. And I also am a Mozilla Tech Policy Fellow working on data protection and privacy issues. So I'm excited to be part of this conversation and sharing my insights and learning from all of the participants as well.
Yeah, thank you. Mr. Ridwan Oloyede, please, can you introduce yourself?
Hi, everyone. Morning. Thank you for inviting me. My name is Ridwan Oloyede. I lead the privacy and data protection team at TechHive Advisory. TechHive is a technology advisory firm focused around the key intersection of law, business, and technology. And more specifically, work around the areas of tech policy, cybersecurity, startup advisory, privacy and data protection, and IP and technology. So essentially, my work focuses more around data protection, privacy, data ethics, cybersecurity, and of course, a lot of research and around tech policy. So thank you again for having me. I look forward to the conversation.
All right, thank you, Mr. Ridwan Oloyede. Mr. Seun Ojedeji, please, can you introduce yourself?
Okay, thank you very much. Hello, everyone. My name is Seun Ojedeji, and of course, good to see some of the faces here. I look forward to good deliberation. I'm also with the Mozilla Fellow with the Mozilla Foundation. My work is around open internet engineering, and it's focused on setting up, establishing research education network in a state in Nigeria called Ekiti State. I also wear the hat of being an AFNIC board member, but I'm not joining this session as an AFNIC board member. So take my views and my opinions as personal and not as official AFNIC board member. So I'm here as myself, as an individual, and I look forward to having good deliberation with my panelists and also from all the participants. Thanks for inviting me.
Thank you very much, Mr. Seun Ojedeji. Mr. Seun Fakorede, I guess, is not with us at the moment, but we can just go on, and whenever he joins us, he can just join the conversation. Well, I know we understand now that the internet has become a very essential element in our lives, and even during this period, the pandemic period, we have seen the importance of the internet in terms of communication, sharing, information, health, education, civil engagement, and the what have nots. Aside that, we have also experienced issues and amongst other things as the internet, we have had still cyber crimes on the increase and other issues coming up here and there. in this post-COVID-19 era. I think this question will go to Chinai Chair. We've seen that some people are more privileged than the other, and some are offline. The digital divide has actually been on the increase. And even at this period and post-COVID-19, it seems that while some people are learning online, some people are offline, not doing anything, things are happening online. It's almost like there's actually a divide. Chinai, my question will now be, what will be our strategy in dealing with this issue in terms of the digital divide? What should we be expecting as probable solutions that we can deal with this issue? We have had divide before now. We have had this divide, and now it seems that the divide is widening. What should be our strategy? What should be solutions that we can think about now?
Thank you so much, Marisola. So absolutely correct. The digital divide is expanding, and it has continued to grow more so in the less developing countries. And in particular, when it comes to women are most likely to be at the bottom when it comes to the so I'll give you some insights from the Web Foundation on the work that we've done in addressing the gender digital divide. We find that men are 21% more likely to be online than women, and this increases to 52% in the world's least developing countries. And you can tell that even seemingly thinking that everyone is coming online equally to be able to access the internet, but this is as a result of other factors such as the ability to actually have the digital skills to be able to use the internet. And in our recent study that we conducted in Ghana, Colombia, Indonesia, that 48% of our women, because of the issues around digital skills. So the digital skills and literacy, and this is higher, 48%, whereas men was 41%. And in another survey that we did earlier on in the year, we found that 52% of young women and girls say that they experienced online abuse, and 87% think the problem is getting worse. Now, this was before the pandemic, right? And so then you actually find that the issues that we need to address are ways in which of creating a safe and secure internet space where people freely and also not be afraid that they're going to be harassed on the internet. So think about it, for example, as more and more young people were actually going to school online and having to connect on these platforms, what did it mean for them if you're now in constant contact with someone who's your bully on these platforms? And what were the safety solutions that these schools had to put in? And then think about it in terms of the literacy. As most governments are putting forward solutions of getting young people onto the internet and being connected, the plan and the solutions to ensure that they actually have the skills to be able to connect online and to use the internet adequately, and not just the young people, but the teachers as well in the programs. So you actually asked for a solution, right? Like, what is it that can be done? So from our side, we really think that it's important for governments to actually really focus on who the current broadband national policy plans, if they're there, are focused on, and how do we ensure that we close the gaps when it comes to the gender digital divide, as well as ensure that we're including young people into the processes of policy development and policy making. And this is why I'm so excited to be in this conversation, because it's important that in terms of the issues they prioritize and how they want to work when it comes to the internet. For that public commitment to actually closing these divides and ensuring young people's rights online. And we recently talked about the Web Foundation introduced what we call the Meaningful Connectivity Standard. And this is not just to look at access in terms of have you used the internet in the last 3 months, but to actually talk about strategies that include looking at, do people have access to smart devices? Do people have a good quality connection? Are they able to use the connection on a daily basis? And is the connection of a good quality? So we're talking about 2G or 3, like some of us assume we're on 3G, but actually when you connect in a different sport, you find out that you're on 2G. So some of the issues, the priorities that we are trying to champion are for governments to commit to change, to actually assess the quality of connections that they're connecting to, and to ensure that all voices are heard in developing ways that tackle the issues around issue of skills, literacy, affordability, as well as a safe space online. Thank you.
Thank you for your contribution. That was really insightful. I really learned a lot from that. Thank you very much once again. We've come to note that, okay, fine, the internet has also helped us over time to build to promote economic growth. My question now will be to, Chineke, I will come back to you for another question. My question now will be to Mr. Seun Ojadeji. How important is the role of the tech community in building capacity for the youth, for everybody generally? How important is the role of the technical community in building capacity for a resilient internet?
All right, thank you very much. I think that's a very important aspect. When Shine was saying something about not just having access, not just having a smart device, but also knowing how to use it is actually key. And that is where I believe that the role of the tech community comes into play. And over the years, for instance, I've been within the educational sector, the tech part of it, over a decade, and I think one of the things that I've identified and observed over the years is that even within the education or the academic sector, the technical side of it requires a lot of capacity building as well. And so one of the efforts I believe that has been done within Nigeria is the establishment of the NOGS, which is the Nigerian Network Operators Group. And they do normally run annual events, and I believe this year, due to COVID, they're doing some webinar series. But it needs to go beyond that, because we realize now that whether it is thanks to COVID, most institutions now realize that it's important to actually embrace internet. A lot of institutions, lecturers, in quotes, are kind of hesitant to want to use internet to some extent in the past. But I think the reality is that it's what is actually bringing us, it's what is helping us to actually continue some level of education for now. And the technical know-how of students, the technical know-how of people who will be participating in the various institutions is very key. For instance, in Ekiti State, where I reside, we try to build capacity of institution staff on how to actually technically manage some of these internet resources. I think we need to continue to scale down, further down on that. The more we create community of internet users, the more we'll have the opportunity to actually share technical know-hows. One of the things that one could say is also governments have a role to play in this, but not just government, we as individuals need to also play our role by actually contributing to the various environments that we find ourselves building their technical competence. So I think that technical community has a key role to play. We have seen what we call the NGNOG. We have what we call the National Research Education Network. We have various regional research education network like the EcoConnect, like the one that we're trying to do in Ekiti as well, which is Ekiren. But we also need to have more of that. I believe that's also that is also where what we call the community networks also come into play. I think Nigeria has one of the lowest number of community networks in Africa. Tanzania is has quite a number. South Africa also does. and some other countries. So as one of the most populous, I mean, as really the most populous nation, Black nation in the world, we really need to face the reality that we have to approach technical capacity building in various ways. It has to be multidimensional. There has to be various approaches, and then we can't just say, okay, this is just going to be how we're going to treat building technical competence. We have to use the various means that we have, community networks, RENs, even ISPs should organize capacity building trainings. Governments, for instance, in Ekiti State, they've actually started organizing what they call the knowledge zone in one of their programs, where they are actually trying to build capacity of 20,000 youths to actually build their competence. So they are starting with a pilot of 2,000. So that is what they are contributing, but it's not enough, because we know that that is just a start. The more we all do encourage some of these ideas, this effort, I think that we won't be too far from enabling technical competence of some of our youths and some of the internet users. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Mr. Seun Ojadeji. Thank you for your contribution. I think I picked some points out of your contribution. Something like diversifying our approaches, as there's really need for us to diversify our approaches, not just coming up with a central approach or just one kind of approach. We should have different form of approaches to build capacity. Thank you very much for that contribution. Mr. Ridwan Oluede, I'm directing this question to you. The growth of the internet, even during the period of the pandemic and going into the post-pandemic, we have seen instances whereby the government have taken steps to gag the internet in terms of putting policies into place that somewhat not favorable because of the negative impression that some youths or people generally have given the Nigeria basically in the international front. And we have had increased cyber crimes and the likes. Even before the pandemic, we have had issues of cyber crime, and it's not stopping, and the government is trying to put things in place. In this, I would like to direct this question to you now. What should be our response, or what should be the strategy of stakeholders in ensuring that we have not only a resilient internet, but we have a secured internet and is sustainable in the long run?
All right. Thank you. Yeah, thank you, Morisola. Yeah, I mean, you've laid out the issues out there, and as a matter of fact, I mean, there are issues that are visible to anyone who wants to verify that. But also, I think there's also the bits where I think sometimes the negativity itself is sort of over amplified. If you look at broadly all of these statistics, and these are verifiable information, the so-called crime itself doesn't really make up. I mean, you can compare it to what you see from other part of the world, but that doesn't ignore the fact that there is a problem, and there's a problem that needs to be, tackled. So from the government point of view, I mean, starting from your initial point around how some African governments trying to like stifle communication during the pandemic. I mean, there was a statistics that I can't remember the body that conducted it, but part of first initial emergency measures that some African governments put in place included suppressing human rights, suppressing right to movements, right to freedom of expression, and all of that. So, but what we see itself is, I mean, how do you link all of this suppression of rights and all of these things to effectively tackling a pandemic, for example? I mean, we have a public health crisis that we're trying to solve, and you're making it public health or human rights, and that should never be the case. We should have the two side by side, working side by side to ensure on one breath you're safeguarding the human right of your people, and on the other breath you are efficiently tackling the pandemic. And of course, tackle the pandemic from verifiable scientific evidence, not suppressing your people into silence. And of course, suppressing the numbers, complete lack of transparency and accountability in the way you go about it. But beyond that, how do we build a resilient internet? Of course, we have proliferation of devices. We've seen more internet growth in so many African countries, in sub-Saharan regions, for example. But of course, in this conversation, it's also a whole lot of people being left out, especially the females, especially. If you look at the most recent statistics around the internet use in Africa, you see the females are not adequately represented in that number, and that's due to so many factors. I don't need to reel out some of the problems, but also, I mean, there are so many social issues, so many economic dimensions to why that's remained that way. But building an effective and also a resilient internet also means the government is doing its bit by first creating an adequate law. When I mean an adequate law, I mean a law that also respects human rights of people, not just trying to take the problem, trying to solve the crime from just punishing point of view, but also there has to be a sufficient way where the laws itself is adequately enforced, and not only enforced, there's also a judicial system that is working effectively. And why I say this is because look at the typical, if you look at so many World Bank ease of doing business reports, you see how part of the statistics always include the number of days it takes to resolve contractual disputes in countries, for example. And you look at so many countries in this part of the world, and it takes so, you yourself, you work in the, you come from the legal background, and you know how long it actually takes for a court, for a case to move from the trial stage to probably even getting to the apex court, for example. You know how long it will take. I was reading a story this morning of a case that was initially filed in 2000 at the High Court, and the judgment wasn't delivered until 2010. Then there was an appeal. 77 times, the Court of Appeal itself did not sit on that particular case. And now, just today, this morning, the case has been adjourned till 2022. So that's like 22 years of disputes. So the government has to, the judicial system has to work efficiently. The law has to be there. And I'm not speaking about a law that is suppressing. I'm speaking about a law that fairly represents and also seeks to, while trying to solve the crime or solve the problem, it also respects the human right of people. You see how recently the ECOWAS court has to rule on the Nigerian Cybercrime Act, for example, and you see what's happening in that space. So first is the government doing its bit. Then the next bit is also as users, we also need to as users and also stakeholders. There is also that sense of responsible use of the internet, which these have to be sufficiently push and also implemented. There is a need for that responsible use of the internet, regardless of what legal measures people the government put in place. For example, people will still want to do what they have to do, but there's also that sense of responsibility. There's also that sense of doing what is right. But beyond that, there's also the technical measure, which means organizations should create efficient organization and technical measures to ensure that their environment, their infrastructure are also safe. But beyond this, you go to every part of the world. I don't say this alone. You go to even in quotes now, in a developed economy, all of this, so many of these countries, they are well represented when it comes to the cybercrime index. You see a whole lot of crimes actually being committed in so many parts of this world. But it's easy to zero in on this part of the world for whatever it is that's being done. But like I said again, there is a problem. There is a real problem that needs to be solved. But it's solving it means always taking a multi-pronged approach. The technical bits, the economic dimension to it, the social dimension to it, and also the political dimension to it. So it's a whole lot of things we're going to see, and the space is evolving. It's evolving also because things like misinformation is creeping into the space. I think this is something I'll probably like to talk pretty much later. But I think I'll just like to stop now. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Ridwan Oluide. Thank you for the point you've made. I clearly noted, you mentioned the responsible use of the internet, regardless of measures and everything. And you also mentioned that governments should not just governments, it's practically the responsibility of every stakeholder to develop the internet. And not just the responsibility of governments to create policies and the likes. I'll get back to you later. Well, this trend of the internet basically lies in it's being opened, the distributed nature, and a resilient and secured and robust internet, as well as the protection of fundamental rights online. That's very essential to build users' trust. Now, my next question will go to two of the panelists. In this case, let me just throw it open to the judges at large. What are the key factors that should be considered in creating a favorable environment that will include more youths in internet-related conversations and debates? What are the key factors? I'm throwing this question generally to all the judges now. To all the panelists, sorry, that what are the key factors that should be considered in creating a more favorable environment that will include more youths in internet-related conversations and debates? Any of the panelists can just answer the question. Thank you.
Thanks, Marisola. So I think the big thing, right, ensuring that the key factors that we need to make sure that the young people are included, we have to be able to create spaces for participation. So what you've done right now with the Nigeria Youth IGF is particularly very important. And then we also have to, when they do come into these spaces for participation, whether this is or supporting any collaborative movement based on principles of openness, right? So the way in which we can support, the way in which we listen to young people. So it's important to have participation in place. It's important to support their inclusion, but it's important for those who are in positions of decision making to also listen to young people actively and to understand what it is that they want. So at the Web Foundation, want to participate in a way that ensures that the web that is out there is designed. And we talk about specifically 3 principles for people, which are, principle 7, 8, and 9 for citizens to be creators and collaborators of the web. So for that to happen, again, we have to make sure that we have spaces that allow for young people to do this. Communities that respect civil discourse, the movement building that we have to support for young people to do this, and essentially just to fight for the web. And we look at young people as a very powerful constituency because we're a very youthful continent, right? And they have the ability to engage and catalyze action that would impact on digital. One of the Youth Research and Development Forum of Nigeria is one of that communication is being done, young people are leveraging to allow for themselves to be included into these spaces. And not just to be included, but I also highly encourage young people to build their own tables and to build their own spaces where then those who are put in positions of power, those who are come to them and ask to be included in those spaces as well, because it's so important to be able to, when we're thinking about being creators and collaborators on the web, to not just go into spaces that may not necessarily be the way that we want them to work, but to create our own spaces that allow for us to really freely, truly express ourselves.
Thank you, Chine. I don't know if any of the panelists would also like to answer that question. If not, we can open the floor.
Marie, so I mean, I'm just going to take it from the point of view, like, okay, what's technology meant to do? I mean, when we deploy technology basically, or when we speak to technology essentially, we want to see it having a multi-purpose function for the people it's trying to serve. It should be easy to learn and use. It should be scalable and accessible, and of course, it needs to be affordable. So I'll take it from the affordability part. There's no way we can say, or we're making a case for, thank you, Chennai, for emphasizing the bit around collaboration. Of course, creating a safe space for the youth. So, but it's no, how do we, there's really no place. In the first place, there is a place where we talk about inclusion, where we talk about them being able to participate. But if affordability is still a problem, there's really no way they can participate when even being able, to be able to access the internet is a problem. And when I speak to affordability, it means maybe even being able to access an internet-enabled device, for example. And also, now we're seeing so many sides to the argument where, okay, now we have cheap devices that could probably that could be sold, that is being sold in this part of the world for far lesser prices than some well-known brands. But also we've seen the problems with cheap devices, which means the vulnerability embedded in them, gross intrusive privacy violation that comes with using some of these devices themselves. So all of these problems, we're looking at it from a broad spectrum. We'll see there's a very big problem. They want to play. I mean, the numbers, the number of the African youths. I mean, and it's no secret that in the year 2050, we'll see what the young population on the continent will be like. So we know all of these things. We know how growing the population is in significantly so many parts of the continent. Nigeria as a case study. We've seen the geometric rise in the population growth. So if we're thinking about bringing all of these people on the grid, for example, we need to create not only just safe space, but also all of these things needs to be, first, it needs to be affordable. Then we need to create channels where we can start thinking about including youth in the conversation. So also, I made reference also earlier to responsible use of the internet, and that also means being able to create some sort of awareness around how to even how to use the internet responsibly. So, for example, we've got so many kids coming online using the internet, whether, and of course, using the pandemic as a case study, I mean, so many of them now have to attend classes online for those who can afford that, because a wider number of kids could not even access educational facility because, of course, again, they can't afford being able to access some of these things because, of course, because of poverty, that is actually a real problem, the economic dimension to this. So, in between all of this, we're seeing a case where some kids could afford it and could attend. Some kids could not. So this is a wider case for, affordability is something I think we need to sort of emphasize, and also creating a message around, even when it becomes affordable, how do they use it? How well are kids aware about that imminent adult that is trying to prey on them on the internet? Digital kidnapping is a thing, and so many dimensions to some of these arms that could probably affect kids, for example. And it doesn't just stop at kids. It also spills into the wider age bracket of the internet youth, the African population, and of course its own youth. So I think affordability is, I'm big on affordability, that we have to find a way to sort of solve this problem. And of course, again, it's not a problem that you lift just one angle to, or one body to solve. Again, it has to be like we have to take a multi-pronged approach, and I think the popular phrase is a multi-stakeholder approach to solving the affordability issues. But beneath all of these problems is also the fact that as a continent and as a country, we need to solve also our own economic problem. Because if we don't solve the economic problem, people won't have the purchasing power. These things will remain luxury, even though it's much needed to our survival, to our daily survival. But they will remain luxury. You're going to, looking at some countries already without listing really now names, the price of food is competing for everything already. People spend more than 50% of their household earning on food. So when you have a large household, which is the common thing, how do you now shove aside the budgets for things like this? So we need to solve our own economic problem. When there's increased power, when we're able to solve the economic problem, we're able to crack the economic problem, then we can of course see that upsurge of people being able to get on this train, get on this wave. But all of these things, like I said again, they are interconnected problems, and we need to solve it from a broader point of view. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Rilwan. I don't know if Mr. Seun Ojedeji wants to just answer the question.
Yeah, thank you. This is Seun. I think one of the things about this question is once one or two speakers have spoken, it's easier to just say, I think they've said a lot of things already. But I just wanted to also flag an aspect which I think that has been touched a bit, but perhaps I should also say this. The youth that we have, the youth of nowadays, the level of content that we actually create, engaging youth to actually create content that is of relevance is also could also be something that will be important. Content is one of the things that I think would drive where the traffic of the internet is coming from and is going to. So the more we actually also engage the youth to create useful content, content that actually reflects our culture, content that actually reflects what the country is about, what the region is about, could also to some extent help also improve and get engagement of youths in internet development. But I think I wouldn't shy away from the fact as well that, I mean, before you can create the content, you need access, right? So, I mean, a lot has been said about this already, so I don't need to dwell too much on that. It's obvious and it's important that we really need access, but not just access, meaningful and affordable access. It's very important. There may also be need to actually, some of this awareness, when it comes to awareness, there may be a need to actually go beyond using internet to teach about internet, okay? So we need to probably use things that people can access. So if there's a radio in villages, yes, let's use that to talk about some of those things, some of the things that are technical, so that to some extent that are in a descriptive manner, to some extent that when these people finally get access to it, they will be a little bit ready to actually embrace it. For some people, internet is still like a scary thing to them, and of course, people still need to be educated. So that education should happen through various means as well. So that way, we are empowering them, even though they probably don't have all the access yet. But when it finally happens, I'm sure the learning curve will be lighter, and it will probably be easier as time goes on. But I think that all these things need to happen continuously. And I think one of the efforts that government is making now, some states governments are now doing free right of way to lay fiber, to get access to people, to get access, meaningful access to some locations which are not necessarily business centric in nature, because that's one of the challenges that we have, that big companies don't want to go to areas where there is no business incentive as such. So the more we do some of these things, and the more we have things like community networks and WENS, maybe we would also see youth actually getting meaningful access. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Now we'll open the floor for question and answer. I saw somebody raising their hand earlier for the question and answer session. Although we have a question, we'll come back to that later, but let's just treat those that raised their hands first. Tuko Sheu, I'm sorry if I pronounced your name wrong. I saw you were raising your hand at a particular point. The floor is now open for question and answer. Please unmute your mic and ask your question.
Hi, if you would like to speak, you can raise your hand and we would give you permission to speak. But while that is going on, I think we can go on with the other questions here. Okay, so we have people raising their hands. So Tuko, I'm going to give you permission to speak now. Thank you. You can unmute your mic, please, Tuko. Tuko, you can go ahead to speak, please.
Okay. Hello, are you hearing? Are you hearing?
Yes, we can hear you.
We can hear you.
Okay. Please, what are the strategies that promote youth in order to get secured internet? That is my question.
Thank you very much, Tuko. Panelists, please note the questions. We'll come back to answer all the questions at once because of our time. Thank you very much, Tuko. The next person I see raising hand here is Musiliu Adebayo Lawal. Please, can you ask your question now?
Okay. My name is Engineer Lawal Musliu Adibayo from University.
Thank you. You're welcome. Please ask your question.
Minamada don doka. Sirinjin.
You're muted, Mr. Liu, so you have to unmute yourself, please.
Okay. Hello, can you hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you. Kindly ask your question, please.
We can
All
hear
right.
you now.
I want to know what can be done to increase the internet connectivity of the locality, especially here in Kwara State. We have internet, but it's not robust enough. As in, some places are connected through fiber, while are just being connected via wireless and stuff like that, which are not giving us robust internet connectivity. What can it be done, please? Can you enlighten us?
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Musiliu. The panelists, please also note your question. Also note this question. We'll come back to answer it. Before I take any further raising of hands, we have two questions. Two people have actually typed in their questions. The first one is, panelists, please take note. The first one is, how does government framework on ICT help to connect people in regions with limited access to internet and power, especially students? The next question I have here is from Usaini Amza. What can be done to prevent youth in internet scam or fraud? Panelists take note. I will take the next question from Taiwo Peter Akinremi. Taiwo Peter Akinremi, please can you unmute your mic and we'll take the question.
Thanks so much. Sorry, can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you, please. Go ahead.
Thank you so much to the panelists. My question is around how to translate connectivity, because so much has been said on connectivity, affordability, cost, and stuff like that. But how can we translate the current connectivities that we have to business? So that's my question.
All right, thank you. Thank you very much, Mr. Taiwo. Panelists, please, we'll give like 2-3 minutes. Please, let's answer the questions before we take more questions if there's time. So.
Okay, let me just, may I?
Yes, please, you can go ahead.
Okay, yeah, this is Sean. So let me just attempt some of the response to some of the questions. From the person that spoke from Kwara, what to be done to increase internet connectivity? I think one of the things that we need to also realize is that the data, the internet bound traffic is bandwidth is expensive, especially as you move from Lagos, from inward Nigeria, and I think that reality is there, even though the price is reducing, but that cost is still there. So I think the reality is that there's no free internet in practice. There is actually there's a cost to it. So the easiest part would have been to say, yes, we need to get funds to actually increase the capacity of this link. But I think one other thing that we need to consider doing is also establishing local connectivity. You would realize that some of the connections, some of the interactions that have been done on the internet or with the internet could actually have been done locally. within the Quora environment. So I think I would encourage, if there are community networks that can be established, if there are education networks, those local connectivity can be established. At least those communications that is happening within Quora can actually remain local to some extent. But of course, when it comes to the internet, one of the things that needs to happen is when there's appropriate enablement policies that is set by government to attract investors to actually come into to invest on bandwidth provisioning in the states or in the country. Things like cost of internet is going to reduce, because some of the costs one of the things that affect the cost is also the cost of actually maintaining the internet infrastructure as well. The second one, the second question, which I will just try to quickly respond to because of my time, is what do we need to be done? What should be done to prevent internet scam and fraud? Well, from the youth, I think so. There's a two-way to this: those who are actually victims and those who are the actors. So I think for the victims, what we need to do is to educate. I think there has to be a continuous education. There has to be continuous awareness, like what we are doing right now. I mean, youth needs to be educated. Youth needs to know that not everything on the internet is actually what it is. And for those who are actually the actors and who are not necessarily the victims, I think it falls on our system in terms of what policies and how efficient are some of the systems that we have to dictate some of these fraudulent acts. And of course, what is there justice? The justice system, how efficient is it? Like somebody was saying the other time that some people, it may take years to actually get a case through. And I think I'm not a legal person, but at least I observe some of the things that happen. So I think a judicial system will also have a big role to play in actually prevention of youths from actually performing internet scam and frauds. Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Seun Ojodeji. Do any of our panelists want to respond to any of the questions before we go ahead and take new questions?
So I'm just going to add something to the question around broadband. There's a broadband policy in the country, and if the government is able to follow through on it, I think there's a way we can scale connectivity. But beyond that too, we see how so many state governments are also crashing the price of right of way, for example, which also means for those states, for example, they might get to enjoy better connectivity. But beyond that as well, I mean, we've got state governments that have imposed multiple taxation on these telecommunication companies. And that's the sad part of government seeing businesses trying to thrive in their community as something they can milk as a revenue point, but rather than see them as collaborators and creating some sort of a safe environment for them to actually thrive. Because when they thrive, it means they can connect more communities, and of course they can. And it's also linked to the economic. Is going to be linked to the economic situation of the state itself. So beyond that, how do you create a safer? Safer internet? It's like we said, it's double from the victim. But I would rather say even three pronged. Remove the platform owners, the organizations who create. You're trying to buy from, for example, and they need to do their bit around creating a safe space, which means ensuring security of their own platform themselves. Let them do their bits. We need more transparency. We need to be able to hold people more accountable. We need transparency from even organizations too. So, for example, privacy data protection is a very big issue. How many of these organizations do have privacy notice, for example? And when you manage to read, how many of us do read privacy notices, for example? And when we do read it, how many of these privacy notices also genuinely reflects what a business is doing? So, but if we have an environment where we can hold people accountable, it simply means by mere filing a complaint against that kind of company, for example, it means they can be held accountable, they can be sanctioned, they can be told to do better. So, and when people start seeing sanctions enforced, for example, people will do better, organizations will do better. So that's one bit. From the user's point of view, I mean, there's that place for user awareness, which I think needs to be done by a whole lot, by every one of us. I mean, if you have fair knowledge and a fair understanding of the internet, you need to educate the next person, the folks in your house, the family, your friends. You need to educate your own community to keep them safe from frauds and all of these things. How many of us can actually detect a phishing link from a normal link, for example? How many of us can actually detect an online love scam? Or, I mean, some of these things are morphing in so many different ways. They look so good, they look so real, but then how many of us can actually see beneath it and see this is actually fraud for what it is? So we need more, we need increased user awareness on that front. Then how does, I mean, how do you, I mean, how so I think that's one bit, but more importantly is also, like I said again, we're also going to see every one of us trying to play our own bits, trying to play our own role. Then of course I think there's also a big conversation around indigenous innovation, indigenous technology, because if we're able to do that, it's directly linked to also the economic prosperity of any nation that is actually able to harness the power of its own indigenous innovation. Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much, Ridwan. We have people raising their hands, then panelists can respond to the questions generally because of our time. I have Uzondu Ibe. Please, can you unmute your mic and ask your question in 30 seconds, please? Thank you. Uzondu Ibe. I also saw Abdurrahman raising his hands, Abdurrahman Bakindo Alkali. Sorry, if I'm pronouncing your name wrongly. After those two questions, we won't be taking any more. After those two people, we won't be taking any more questions because of our time. Thank you. Uzondu Ibe, if you can unmute your mic, please ask your question. Okay. I think, I don't know what's going on. If you want to ask your question, you can just type it in. Panelists, if you have any more response to give to previous questions, please, you can do that now, and let's start making our final comments.
Hello.
Hello.
Hello, this is Abraman. My question is, how do we effectively address the issue of this wide gender gap? You understand, the skills gap.
Okay.
How do we address it? Because my organization, the Northeast ICT Initiative, we have been involved in one of the programs. You understand, in bridging the digital divide, gender digital divide. So I want to hear other approaches, you understand, so that it can help us in effectively implementing it down here. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you very much. Okay, do any of our panelists wants to respond to that? And in giving your response, please kindly make your final conclusion.
Sure, so I can start off with response to closing the gender digital divide. So I think the work in closing the gender digital divide requires all of us to be involved in it. So it's a collaborative process. And the programs that are being done are very important because then there's a focus to understand in terms of like upscaling young women about thinking beyond code. So even if you do, you have to take a holistic solution that does take into account the ways in which if you're teaching, if you're trying to close the gender digital divide by upskilling, where can does the environment that allows for these young women and girls to actually enter into these spaces to occupy these professions, does it allow for them to excel? Because then you have to think about issues around sexual harassment, then you have to think about issues around discrimination in young women and girls being hired because these jobs may be considered. Right. So that's one aspect. And I think it's also quite important then to the gender audit scorecard. In that, we take a look at all of the government ICT policies and assess if they have gender targets, assess if there's a budget that's actually supposed to support these gender targets, and actually assess the capacity of the policymakers in the room. Because I think it's very important to, as we're thinking about addressing the issues in terms of the digital space, do we have the financial support to be able to implement these solutions? Do we have the kind of capacity that allows for the those in positions of power and policy making decisions? And also even those who are running these programs, do they have the support from the government? And also, do we have the support from the community? Because I think that research that I did a couple of years ago that also touched on Nigeria, what we found was that even if you put a internet cafe in a community, they could go and access their that internet cafe. For young people, lack of trust from their family members, because they thought that once they go there, they're not really going to use the internet, they're going to the internet to watch pornography. So there you have that. It requires a holistic approach to addressing the issues that we have. Now, I know that I also now have to do my closing remarks, but I think in some, what is important to think about, the onus is not just on young people to ensure their safety, to ensure that they're well connected, to ensure that they don't fall to online scams and digital kidnappings, but it is also the responsibility of companies. They're the ones with the community guidelines. They are the ones with the levels of data and resources. They are also the ones who are able to actually connect different communities in order to come up with solutions that are responsive to a context. I'll give you an example. If you simply go and look at community guidelines for your own country, if you're on Twitter or on Facebook or on Instagram, look to see who is the support person that if someone experiences online harassment, where do they go? You're more likely to find that it's an organization based out in California, or it is an organization that's based out in some other country, which makes it difficult. And it has a cell phone number there, but then assumes everyone has the ability to have platforms. So the onus is actually on platforms to also think about responsive solutions that work for us, for our safety, and also to think about the issues around ownership of our data, because all of the targeted ads that happen, or some of the information that then comes results in particular types of information, that it's as much as we have a responsibility to be good, have to be thinking about how do we make sure that we hold companies accountable and responsible for their behaviors on these platforms. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Ridwan Oloyede and Seun Ojedeji. Please, can you respond to any question and make your closing remark in 1 minute? Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, Marisela. I think the niggling question I see here is how do you connect connectivity into business? It's simple, not so simple actually. When you have more people being able to use the internet, who are able to, they're able to afford the internet, it simply means we're creating an environment where, just the traditional concept of sellers and buyers, you're able to bring more people online. It also means more businesses become more visible to targeted markets, people who are interested in what they're selling, for example. People who are based in remote part of the country, for example, now can actually put what they sell, what they do. They can actually speak about it and put it online there. So that simply means from not being able to connect, not having internet access, now there's a corridor in which other parts of the world can actually see what they do. And of course, we're talking about the prospect of creating a thriving economic value chain in that kind of system. Also, it means if you're able to use the internet, for example, to whether you're buying, whether you're selling, there is also that prosperity elements to it, which is the fact that you're able to connect the people who will be interested in it. But on the final note, Achanaya said the need for platforms to build to be more responsible, and that's true. I agree with that completely, because you can't sit in some thousands of miles away and design solution for people purely based on your own vibes. Like you need to like understand the community which you serve, and maybe come closer to the community, have a conversation around how, I mean, the peculiarity of some of these communities, and of course, design an effective way to address some of these things. Also, there's a very big place for transparency and accountability, and that also stems from government being able to enforce the law they have in place. The law itself having a human right face to it. There's also the bits where we speak about resilience. Resilience is anchored on social, economic, and environmental factor. It means all of these things have to, we need to create a viable environment, a viable space for all of these things to thrive. On a final note, I also think there's a big case for responsible use of data. There's so many things that we've seen around because of Africa having a lax data protection framework, how so many businesses get away with things. And I don't need to get into details of some of the gory things that we've seen in the space, and even some of the research that we have conducted ourselves. Currently, one of the big things we're looking at currently is loan lending apps. We've seen what's happening in Kenya, for example, and similarly, they are available in so many African countries. And the kind of things that these people do, I mean, there's something that is actually kind of worrying. A lot of us may probably been victims to some of these things, but aside us users being aware of being able to follow our data ourselves and of course do our bits, and there's also the bits, like I said again, where transparency and accountability come in, and of course we need the regulator to do their own job, enforce the law for heaven's sake. And where there are no laws, let's create laws to actually take care of people and safeguard them. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Ridwan Lede. Mr. Seun Ojedeji, please kindly answer questions you want to answer and make your final remarks.
All right, thank you. I think it's still the same question about converting business. That was just the pending one, and which I think Mr. Ridwan have actually responded to. But I will also just to add that converting connectivity into business itself can be a using tool they call the connectivity for your business. So a lot of things depend on the internet now. So there are lots of existing businesses that you may have, and then you use the internet as well, just as a tool to actually showcase those businesses and then get into the global space in various sectors, especially the agro sector, which happens to be one of the biggest one that is receiving more focus in the country. So the specifics of what you can use, how you can convert the internet for business, it's really dependent on what kind of business you're doing. It really depends on what kind of activity, what kind of thing or kind of skills do you have at the moment as well. So I think let's just say I would suggest that you just see the internet as a tool to actually achieve a particular end. So that is the most important. A lot has been said in terms of government kind of supporting, encouraging providers to actually come and lay fiber to remote areas and to certain parts of their states by actually crashing the right-of-way costs. But I also think that some states have done those policies, but I think that it's not just about putting those policies there as well. It has to be, government needs to also probably move from the normal conventional of people reaching out to them, but government also needs to start doing some marketing because so that the approach needs to change. It mustn't be business as usual as well. So government needs to also start reaching out to providers, actively reaching out, and of course, wooing people. Wooing investors to their. That's how I put it. Wooing investors to their states. I know some states that decided to just give a whole piece of land off, and so a lot of things needs to be contributed in that area. So finally, in terms of my final remark, I think overall, this thing we are doing now is one of the aspects. More of it will continue to happen, and I think that the more we educate ourselves, the more we get empowered as a youth. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Mr. Seun Ojedeji. Sorry, a lot of things has been said today, and just a little bit of summary of what has happened. We have talked about creating space for participation, We have also talked about the way government should listen to youth actively. Youth should build their own space, issues of affordability, and we have also talked about content, whereby people should create more useful content, more relevant content. And awareness is also what we have also talked about today. Awareness is key in all this. I would like to thank my panelists for joining in today. Thank you for the wealth of knowledge that you have contributed to this panel section. Thank you very much. And this is where we'll draw the curtain on this session. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Marishola, for your excellent moderation. And thank you so much to our panelists for joining this session. This has been an extremely amazing session, and I am extremely grateful to all of you who have asked questions and engaged our speakers as well. So right about now, we're going to take a break. We're a few minutes ahead behind time, but I think if we break for 10 minutes and then we all join our individual breakout group sessions, what we have done as an organizing team is to identify 4 core topics which we identified from the call for input to our community. So the first session, session 1, is titled Building Capacity for Nigerian Youth in Web Literacy and ICT Skills in the Area of COVID-19. And the second topic is the role of youth in the global internet economy, which is followed by session 3, Impact of Connectivity on E-Business and E-Commerce in Nigeria. And last but not the least, session 4, Cybersecurity and Cybercrime, Enabling a Secure and Sustainable Internet for All. So I believe that we all have the links to these sessions. So immediately after our break, which is in 10 minutes, we would all join our individual breakout group sessions of your choice. Please select any of these 4 rooms which appeals to you the most, and join up for the next 40 minutes after the break. Immediately after the break, we would reconverge here in this room and take our final summary of the discussions on the individual rooms, and then we shall have our closing and our next steps. So thank you everyone who has participated in the first half of this meeting. This has been extremely impactful. Let us break for 10 minutes and then, or I think that the time for the conversations on the group to start is 12:45, but I think that your moderators are going to give you about 5 minutes to join in. So please, if you need to stretch your legs or anything, do that, and do not forget to engage us on social media as well while you break. Our social media handles are displayed on the screen, so please engage with us. We want to connect with you. Let us know what you've learned so far. You can reach out to your panelists and tag them, and we would be sure to retweet you as well. Thank you guys very much, and I hope to see all of you in your different rooms. Thank you so much. So everyone, this room will be closed, and you can feel free to drop off. We're closing this room, and we hope that all of you join up in your individual breakout groups sessions now. You can join there and mute yourself while you take your break. You can take your break and thereafter join, but I think that this room would be closed, and it will we'll come back to this room when we resume for the breakout group session. So goodbye everyone for now. I'm going to put the links to the groups, the different groups on the chat. Let me see if I can just do that now. So I'm putting the links to the individual chats and individual groups on the chat now. I'm putting the links to the individual groups. Let me see if I can just do that. Okay, so the link to the individual breakout groups are available on the chat. So you would have to disconnect from this meeting and actually leave this meeting, and but make sure that you have the link that's copied first. So after that, you can then click on the link that takes you to the group that you would love to join. So basically what you have to do now is identify the group you would love to join, copy the link in a separate tab, and then leave this meeting and then click on that link. So I think that that's sufficient information for everyone. We can, I just dropped it on the chat. Someone says you can't see the link. Can somebody else confirm the links on the chat?
I can see the link. So if they are also present in the WhatsApp group, they can check the WhatsApp group. The links are there too. Oh, Ufa, I think you posted, okay. Let me drop it.
Oh, okay, since I posted it to only the host. Okay. Oh, sorry. I'm reposting this now. I've put the groups for session, the links for session 2 and 1, and I am putting 3 now. And I will put the link to group 4 right now. So there you go. I suppose you all have this now. So please join each of the groups that you would love to engage with. Identify the group you would love to engage with, note the link to join, and leave this meeting and click on the link so you can join. I advise you do that right now because everyone should be in this meeting. So yeah, we should all leave this meeting so that we can all join our individual meetings, please. Thank you. All right, thanks and bye. We should all join now because I think that the conversations in the groups should start in about 5 minutes. So please join the group that you love to engage with, and the conversations resume there in 5 minutes.